Hello everyone, welcome to this AOS CX 10.10 update on Anycast SVI gateway, and the focus will be really to the addition of IPv6 on that feature. I'm Vincent Giles, part of the technical marketing engineering team inside the Aruba switching organization. So let's start with first some acronyms and definition. So the SVI is the switch virtual interface. So this is the well-known VLAN L3 interface. VXLAN, well, this is virtual extensive LAN. VTEP, this is VXLAN tunnel endpoint. VSX VTEP, this is our multi-dual homing capability with VSX cluster to host the logical VTEP function. Non-VTEP VSX would be a plain VSX cluster used in the context of non-VXLAN. So this is the legacy VSX part, I would say. VTEP Active Gateway is the Anycast VTEP virtual IP address that is used for distributed default gateway in the VXLAN EVPN in the EVPN VXLAN network. So this is that configuration is inside the SVI context with the Active Gateway command. This also is the legacy VSX Active Gateway, which is the VSX virtual IP address that is used for active default gateway shared between the VSX primary and VSX secondary, and that is also of course in the SVI context. And then we have what we discussed today is the SVI, the Anycast SVI gateway, which is really the same IP address that is used on the SVI than on the Active Gateway, and regardless this is a VTEP or a VSX SVI IP address that we are talking about. And the prerequisite we'll see is to have the Active Gateway command entered in the SVI context. So let's compare that usage of the identical SVI IP address than the Active Gateway IP address. On the left, in the VSX non-VTEP use case with the command Active Gateway, and we'll see the config. And on the right side, the VTEP Active Gateway that can be a standalone switch, a VSF stack, or a VSX cluster. So let's compare point by point. So Active Gateway command on the left side is used to configure the virtual IP address of the VSX cluster for a given SVI using a shared virtual MAC address on that layer 3 VLAN interface. So that's I would say the legacy usage of the reason why we introduce Active Gateway. And then on the right side, Active Gateway command has been leveraged in the context of VTEP to configure the EVPN Anycast distributed gateway on multiple VTEPs. It could be 100 VTEPs having that same Active Gateway IP address. So we initially didn't support that, and it has been added in the past to support the same SVI IP and the Active Gateway on those interfaces. So this is initially supported on IPv4, and then on IPv6 we'll see that. So we are going to use the same virtual MAC on IPv4 and IPv6 Active Gateway. Regarding the support, so the introduction on SVI identical to Active Gateway has been introduced in 10.09.00.10, and that was for VTEP. It was true for IPv4 and IPv6 in the limited context of, I would say, VTEP and the associated platform that were supported. In the VSX part, so same for IPv4, and for IPv6 we extended the number of VSX platform to support plain VSX, non-VTEP, and clearly the scenario with the pure pipeline being VSX between the VSX primary and VSX secondary. For I would say best practice, on the right side, the Anycast SVI gateway that we have on VTEP really offer a great IP address management efficiency. There is no need to provision a distinct IP address per SVI on each physical switch in the global EVPN VXLAN fabric. So this is really the best practice, to have a unique IP address identical to the SVI, Anycast SVI gateway. For non-VTEP VSX, the Anycast SVI gateway has a very limited benefit in the sense that it's not a key requirement, as there is only 2 additional IP addresses that are consumed per subnet, I would say per SVI. So the impact on IPAM space using same IP is, or not using the same IP, I would say in the opposite, is very limited. So in terms of what is the best practice on the left side, the VS6, I would say that keeping an SVI IP separate from the active gateway remain our best practice for a non-VTEP VS6 cluster for troubleshooting purpose, for easiness of sourcing a ping from different SVI source IP address between the primary and the secondary. So that is important because on the right side, if you have the same IP address for SVI and for the active gateway, obviously sourcing the ping from the SVI may lead to a situation where the packet will go to the destination, but the return packet may not hit the device that trigger and issue the ping. So the ping echo reply might not be received from the device that has received that. So that would trigger the need to create some loopback interfaces or other methods in order for the echo reply to be received. So that is not the case for VS6 active gateway, as this is limited. The SVI is limited to the primary and secondary. This is the reason why we recommend to stick to a different IP address between active gateway and SVI in the context of non-VTEP. Of course, on the VTEP side, if you still want to have a separate IP than the active gateway, it remains supported. However, pay attention that you will have some limited and high constraint due to the IP address management and operational issues to provision all those IP addresses for each VTEP. In terms of gratuitous ARP, on both sides we have an IPv4 gratuitous ARP sent every 120 seconds, and there is an IPv6 outer advertisement is sent between 200 and 600 seconds. There is some point about the active gateway that we saw in some forums, so please remind that you can use the same active gateway, virtual MAC, on all SVIs. There is absolutely no problem in doing so, as that is local. There is a local meaning of that virtual MAC for the machines. So a bit of details and caveats. So the active gateway for IPv6 should be link local if host learn the default gateway via router advertisement messages. So that is third. So please understand that the no IPv6 ND suppress RA command must be used for host IPv6 auto configuration Slack and for, I would say, DHCP-v6 client that depends on router advertisement message for DHCP-v6 settings. So for instance, Windows host. At least one IPv6 address, global, unicast local address or link local address must be configured on the SVI to have the SVI IP address for v6 enabled. Aside, I would say, the autoconfig mode that is out of scope of the topic here. So we do not need to have IPv6 ND router preference high, because in the context of VS6 and VTEP active gateway, everything is active. When the SVI and the active gateway are configured with the same IPv6 address, the duplicate address detection is disabled automatically on the given SVI. If you try to change the attempt number of attempts for DAD in the SVI, you will see a message that will pop up that saying that DAD is disabled. So this is a restriction that will apply on VTEP and also on non-VTEP VS6. If you do SVI IP identical to active gateway IP for IPv6. The IPv6 address that is used can be global unicast address, unique local address, or link local address. So we'll see all the options in some slides that we have here for, I would say, educational purpose. So first, let's consider the VTEP Anycast SVI IPv6 gateway configuration, and we'll go to the recommended option. So you could have, let's say, an SVI using global address and the active gateway using link local address. So why not? So here, again, this is VTEP. So the objective is to have the same IP address on SVI, on VTEP 1 and VTEP 2 or VTEP 3, 4, and so on, hosting the same VLAN interface. So typically here, where you have that global address on the SVI and link local on the active gateway, it may work for Slack, for DHCPv6, but if you use a static IPv6 host configuration with global address, it will end up having the VTEP 1 and VTEP 2 seen with two different MAC, because we do not set a virtual MAC on the SVI. We set it on the active gateway, right? So here, that would be not really supported for static IPv6 host configuration, right? So next one is about SVI and active gateway being a global address. So it will work for static IPv6 host configuration, for Slack, for DHCPv6, but a bit of warning, some host operating system, like Windows, for instance, will still require a link local address on VTEP 1, on VTEP 2, to be set in order to exit the subnet, even if the global unicast address is configured. So as the link local is not configured on VTEP 1 and VTEP 2, well, it may not work well, and you may experience host connectivity if there is, for instance, vMotion between VTEP 1 and VTEP 2 for the VM. So that is not really recommended. Actually, we decide not to support that one. And the next one, which is the recommended one, is when you have the SVI that is identical to the active gateway, but each with both a global address and a link local address. So that is really the both that are configured. So the order of configuration would be to set first the active gateway, and then you set the SVI, in order to avoid, and we'll see that in the next slides, to avoid the duplicate address. So that is the link local here and the global address being identical on VTEP 1 and VTEP 2. And that type of configuration will allow support for all type of IPv6 host configuration. Pay attention that the link local address, you may, for the SVI, you may be able to configure the active gateway without having the need to add a link local address on the SVI. Although this is, I would say, not required absolutely by the CLI, we recommend to put it for readability of the configuration, and for the support team to understand that it has been set as well on the SVI. Just for educational purpose, I would say, in order for to understand what would happen if the SVI is identical to the active gateway, but just link local. Well, obviously here the host will not exit the subnet, so this is you may try that, but this is not really a supported case for production. The second one is what if we have an SVI being link local and the active gateway being a global address? Well, it ends up with the VTEP that will source a link local address with two different MAC addresses. So again, that would not be supported. You will have some duplicate address. Now, for the VS6 case, that is non-VTEP. So both, I would say, Anycast SVI and Unicast SVI on the right side, just to compare. So what we really add in 10.10 is the support of the left part. The right part was already supported before. Okay, there is no change. So you have SVI IP that is, let's say, .2 for IPv4 and :2 for IPv6, for instance. And for the active gateway, that would be .1 for the IPv4 address and :1 for the active gateway IPv6 address. So this part is nothing new. And this will, I would say, be our best practice for non-VTEP VS6. Again, Anycast SVI will provide you the benefit of not provisioning more IP address, but only for 2 nodes, the 2 nodes of the VS6 cluster. So the benefit on IP address management is small, and you may need to have a loopback per VRF. Here there is only one VRF, but per VRF a loopback to source the ping. So both are supported, but the one on the right side is our best practice. I touch on duplicate address detection, so we recommend to have the configuration order being first configuring IPv6 active gateway, and then to configure the SVI IPv6 address. So this would prevent any duplicate address to appear on the network. If it happens that you do the reverse way, there is no problem, but please perform a shut and no shut of the interface. So that's it for this session. I hope it was a good summary of Anycast SVI address for v4 and v6. Thank you.